I was the publisher of the Boston Globe from 2010 until the beginning of this year, 2014. And computer science major in college, sort of a non-linear path to being publisher. And I started at the Globe in 1984, back when it was called data processing, for people who remember that. And I learned the business by automating the business. And one of the things over the years that I really grew to appreciate was the talent within the organization, in all aspects of the organization, was the commitment, and was the value of the mission. And living in Boston, raising the family in Boston, seeing the impact that media can have, and in particular, a quality media outlet with a trusted brand like the Boston Globe could have, was really, really important to me. So you remember 2009, right? 2009 worldwide recession. 2009, Boston Globe was going to be shut down. Boston Globe was for sale. It was reported Boston Globe was on a track to lose $85 million that year. So that's the year I got named publisher. Yeah, thanks. That wasn't quite my reaction. Focusing on, well, how are we going to make a business out of something valuable? The first thing that I wanted to focus on was, what do we do that is uniquely valuable? And there's really kind of two pieces to the business at that time. There's the manufacturing of the product piece, and if you think about the manufacturing process, and I want to come back to this in just a minute, but the manufacturing process of newspapers is really just-in-time manufacturing for a product with a really short shelf life. Right? So you take hundreds of thousands of things, and you take them and you put them on these 4-story towers, and you run the paper through them, and you spray ink on the plates, and you smack the arms for the paper against the plates to manufacture the papers, and then you bundle them all up, and you start that around 11 o'clock at night, and you have them all done by like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you send them all out to people to deliver them. That's one whole aspect of the business, and really an aspect of the business that provided up until the disruptions that came with technology. They provided a terrific barrier to entry for a lot of, for the organization. But it wasn't inherently where the value was. The value is in the journalism. The value is in the trusted brand. It's in the stories you tell. It's in the ways that you cover the news and you connect consumers, readers with the news. It's also, frankly, in the value of taking that audience and connecting advertisers to that audience to sell products. And so that became the core value, and that became the core in which we were going to build the turnaround. And so we kept the investment in the newsroom very, very high. We kept the newsroom at the same level. And then we looked and said, if we really think back to the things that I noticed through the organization, the talent, the commitment, and the value of the journalism, then you build the model off of that, and you bet on the people and you bet on the product. And that's essentially what we did, is we raised the prices to the readers, and we controlled our costs, which is euphemistic for saying that we did some consolidations and had to let some people go, which is a very difficult process in transition. But ultimately, the idea then was to say and look at the consumers, where else do we think people want to connect with us? So there's no question that though print was something, and still is something, that a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people in fact, appreciate every single day, there's a growing audience base that's looking for reading in digital. And digital is sort of a convenient umbrella that we would throw over everything, because digital for a long time meant web, meant desktop web, right? So we kept talking about digital, but we really sort of meant that because that's where we were playing. And really, digital has its many different forms, right? It has its tablet, it has its mobile, it has different experiences. It has, it has a web type component, an HTML5 type solution, responsive design, like what we built. And then it was also, it's also dedicated apps in the space that can behave differently and take further advantage of some of the features that exist with the technology. So finding the solution that takes full advantage of the technology, finding the audience that is looking for that, and finding the right price is ultimately the connection of value. And that's where the organization was repositioned. And so, yes, we raised the prices. Yes, we lowered the costs and drove some efficiencies. And then yes, we started to invest in digital, and coming out with its own Boston Globe digital product, sort of our own front door in the digital space. So that was really the essence of the turnaround. And one of the things that comes out of that is, again, this focus on what's the real value proposition here. It's connecting the consumer. In this case, let's focus first on the reader with the right product at the right time, in the right way, at the right price point. And ultimately, it's not, despite being a computer science guy and what all my friends would say, it's not binary. The world doesn't have to be binary. It's really sort of an and. What other types of products can you build out to connect? They should all conform to the mission. They should all conform to the values of the organization, because again, the core is not the technology in and of itself. It's the technology as a means to an end, or it's really the vehicle as a means to an end. And that brings up another potential opportunity here. I talked to a friend of mine over at the Alliance for Audited Media, which is, among other things, what they do is they take and they go and collect all of the circulation for all of the newspapers who are members, which are most of the papers. And so he ran a quick number for me. In the U.S., for U.S. newspapers, daily and Sunday, I just said, how many paid printed products, right? Print is dying, print is going away, right? So how many paid printed products were purchased for the U.S. newspapers daily and Sunday for 1 year? For 1 year for 2013. And it's a bit of an extrapolation because it's not exactly the way we file, so before people watching this start to write all the comments and say, yeah, that's not a valid comparison. Okay, I'm off by 10%. It doesn't matter because the number's almost 16 billion. So 15.9 billion, based on that extrapolation, is the number of printed newspapers sold in the U.S. for the U.S. dailies and Sunday copies. Those are the paid copies. Okay, that doesn't count the frees. It doesn't count a lot of other things. So print is still a medium that's in demand. My question is, and my challenge really to all the smart people here is, where is the digital disruption for the way we put ink on paper, the same way we took and made digital disruption for connecting information to consumers in a portable format? So the digital printing revolution, again, think from the end state back. Suppose you had the ability to have much more flexible printing in terms of form factor, in terms of size, in terms of personalization, in terms of later news and information. Digital printing is able to provide all of that, not at scale yet, but what type of an opportunity would that provide? So let's just say that whoever came up with this is going to capture 10% of the market and get 10 cents on the dollar for what this is because of the price that they reduce, off of 1.6 billion and then $160 million, right? So there's all of a sudden $160 markets for getting 10% of it and saving a dime. So again, where is there opportunity? I think there's opportunity wherever you look at the consumer and you say, what is the right product at the right price point at the right time, delivered in the right mechanism? And where print is still highly desirable, that represents an opportunity. By the way, print is also still very effective for advertisers. And so the advertisers are ultimately looking to connect with the interested consumers and drive a message out, connect a message out to the audience. Imagine, again, a digital printing solution that gave much more flexibility in terms of how that was to be done, the same way that you do in digital at this place. So I'm not here to say, thank goodness we should all run back and revert to print. I'm just saying, why run away from a channel that is wanted, has huge opportunity, and is something that that is frankly a very good conveyance for what ultimately is the value that is produced by quality news operations, which is the journalism. So the core of the what gets done gets fixed. The constant change is the how it gets delivered and how it gets connected, and that's going to change. 4 years. We're coming up on what, the 4-year anniversary of the iPad? Isn't that like right in April? And Flipboard was incorporated right around this time as well, 4 years ago. So those technologies didn't even exist 5 years ago. What's 5 years from now going to be in terms of consumption? Which is why ultimately, again, the bet is on the quality of the reporting, the trusted brand, and the value to the consumers of what that is, as opposed to just the vehicle. The vehicle has to be excellent. It has to be something that connects in and is easy to work with and easy to use. There's no question about that. But the vehicles are going to continue to change. I think if I'm going to sort of leave you with sort of two challenges, one, I would say, take a look at where there is money and opportunity in this space and be part of the solution. Be part of figuring that out. Put some energy against that. Using digital to disrupt the print manufacturing process, to disrupt digital consumption. There's sort of something elegant about that, even though I stumbled my way through trying to explain it. So that's sort of number one. Number two is stay informed, stay active, stay involved. The mission of these organizations is really one that is worthwhile. It is important, and it not only benefits individuals, it benefits communities, and it benefits society overall. So, if you are, I'm not asking for people to pay for things that they don't want, pay for things they don't need, pay for things where they don't consider that there's value, but don't go out of your way to not pay for things that you use that are valuable, and ultimately support the mission. You know, when you walk into a room and you hit the switch and the light comes on, that's sort of what you expect to have happen. And when it doesn't, then you get angry at the darkness and you've got to go do something about it. And I think it's with the quality journalism again and trusted source and news and information, it's really getting involved, and it is having conversations. There's many more ways to talk to the reporters, to talk to the editors, to talk to the publishers, to talk to the organization. What's important? What do I like? What are you doing well? And what would I like to see more of? So I'm encouraging that dialogue because as a former publisher, that's a terrific dialogue to have because ultimately it's great information to say this what that we're going to do is going to stay fixed. The how is something that we'd love some input on, and the more dialogue, more conversation, and the more we can meet or exceed expectations with how readers and ultimately then advertisers want to connect to those readers, then that's terrific. So that's really, from my perspective, where where the industry is, where the industry is trending. John mentioned that 9 was sort of a difficult time, and there's still a lot of change and a lot of transition. I think when change is the only constant is true. Again, it's not the what, it's the how, and everybody, all the consumers, that's where the value ultimately needs to be delivered. So please engage in the conversation and engage with the properties.